My lords, the rules-based international order exists to support two primary goals. First, as indicated in the title of this debate, is to offer global cohesion, stability, and security. But second, I believe, is to provide a foundation for the global economy to grow and prosper. I am speaking in this debate because I believe that economic growth ought to be explicitly part of this conversation. The ability of the rules-based international order to drive global economic growth rests on globalization. However, as we know, since the 2008 global financial crisis, economic growth has slowed and globalization has stalled. According to Bloomberg, for example, globalization peaked in 2009. Since then, the world has continued to fracture through the 2020 pandemic and the rise of geopolitical conflicts, both kinetic and ideological. We see these widening fissures in the 5 key pillars of globalization. First, there's the trade in goods and services. According to the World Trade Organization, the WTO, the volume of trade, global trade, slumped in 2023. Looking ahead, estimates suggest that the growth in worldwide trade volumes will flatline. This reflects both the slowdown in global economic growth, but also a more siloed world. As the world order is replaced by a proliferation of bilateral agreements and the reconstitution of regional trading blocs, as we think of, for example, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the CPTPP. The threat of higher tariffs by incoming US President Trump will only accelerate this trend. Second are capital flows. Global investment is being hampered by growing protectionism and regulatory bans on the flow of capital. According to UNCTAD, global foreign direct investment fell by 2% to $1.3 trillion in 2023, partly because of rising geopolitical tensions. Investment restrictions, such as the US ban on investment in Chinese technology, have contributed to weak global FDI since 2021. Third, the free movement of people across borders has been interrupted by national governments looking to stem the flow of disorderly migration into their countries. The United Nations estimates that there are now over 120 million refugees and displaced people globally, which stands as the highest figure on record. Fourth is the splinternet, which refers to the more fierce competition between technology leaders such as the United States and the West versus China. A more geopolitically and economically balkanized world with competing factions must surely make the world a less safe place. This is particularly worrisome at a time when innovation in AI and quantum computing are leaping ahead. Technological fissures heighten the risk of cyber warfare in a way that can only destabilize the world order. Fifth and finally, multilateralism, as has been discussed here, and global cooperation is being undermined on 2 fronts. Via growing economic nationalism across developed countries and through the rise of competition from these new configurations of countries such as the BRICS, which is a group of 10 countries of the largest emerging countries, representing 45% of the world's population and 35% of world GDP. My lords, these new groupings reroute and reprice global trade and commodities, and often can be dominated by nations which have stark ideological differences with the West. The worry here is that such differences make it difficult to tackle or confront global pandemics, climate challenges, or financial crises in a unified way. My lords, clearly, based on the reversal of globalization's important pillars, the rules-based international system is at breaking point. It should come as no surprise that with a hobbled rules-based system and with deglobalization comes slower and lower economic growth. Here in the United Kingdom, as an example, annual GDP growth averaged 3% in the era of globalization between 1993 and 2007. But since globalization peaked, between 2009 and 2023, average GDP growth in this country has halved to 1.5%. This deglobalizing world slows human progress and impedes improvement in living standards. Already at this time of deglobalization, the International Monetary Fund predicts that the world's leading economies will struggle to reach 3% per year, the minimum required to double per capita incomes in a generation, which is 25 years. My lords, I know it has become unfashionable to speak and to promote globalization. However, the United Kingdom must remain steadfast as an advocate for global institutions and treaties that can defend and sustain the rules-based system. There are efforts, my lords, to step up and reinvigorate multilateralism. In 2024, the UN General Assembly adopted the Pact for the Future, pledging a new beginning in multilateralism that focuses on peace and stability, sustainable development, and digital cooperation. However, there was no mention of action on global economic growth. Yet actively supporting a global economic growth agenda is a prerequisite for global cohesion, stability, and security.
Yeah.